So good to be worshiping with you this morning. My name's Christian. If I haven't met you yet, in all likelihood, if you are new here and you've just seen me around the service, I've probably been chasing my 1-year-old daughter, Joanna. There's a picture of our family. It's going to be up here on the screen. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. This is from our trip out to Rocky Mountain National Park this summer. We went and we camped and we hiked, and I was just thinking as I saw this picture, because my wife Meg has Joe on her back in her little chariot. Literally all week, this thing kept happening where like we would be on a trail, and if I was carrying Joe, without fail, people would pass us and they would say, "Oh, I'd like to have her ride." If Meg was carrying Joe, they would say, "Yes, Mama, you got this." Like, and I was like, "Come on, man! Like, what is that?" Anyway, yeah, we had a really great trip out there, and there was one hike, the very first hike that we did while we were out in Colorado. It was out on this ridge line. There's a picture of it. It's going to be up here on the screen. This is about like 12,000 feet of elevation. It's very high. As you'll see, there's no trees because it's too cold for trees to grow here. And what that made for was like panoramic views the whole way, just surrounded by mountains and like able to see for miles and miles and miles, and just incredible view. I was hauling Joe that day, and we hiked for a while. We got to the place that we were kind of turning around, sat down for a snack, and we started to look up, and we noticed that the clouds were rolling in. And not like just some clouds from like, one angle. It was all around us. And sun was like shining on us, but all around us, there are clouds. And we look at the mountains in the distance, and there's lightning hitting them. And we hear thunder rolling, and we feel the wind pick up. And all of a sudden, this beautiful view, this thing where, thank goodness there weren't any trees so we could see all the way, we were like, crap, I wish there were some trees. Like, we are exposed up here. And it's pretty scary. This moment goes from like breathtaking views to like, oh gosh, we got to get out of here. And I think that there are moments like this for us in life where we are struck by our own vulnerability, just how little it is that we control. And it may be that happens in a moment like this. It's like very stark, but it really can happen on a day-by-day basis in big ways, small ways. There are moments where we are made aware of our vulnerability, of of the way that we're exposed, of the hurt that could come against us. And so today we're wrapping up this series, and we're talking about this fear. What if I get hurt? What if I get hurt? And in many ways, the questions, the fears that we've been wrestling with. There we go. Siri's wanting to let me know some things. Anyway, sorry about that. In many ways, the fears that we've been talking about through this series, don't you do it, can be kind of summed up in this fear. We're afraid of the pain from loneliness, right? We're afraid of the pain from not having enough, from failing, all these things, right? And so how does Jesus meet us in that? What if I get hurt through failure or lack or loss? These real or perceived threats of pain. That's really what fear is all about. And so today we're talking about what fear does to us. What we tend to do in response to the fear of pain. How that fear shapes our lives with our day-to-day experience and the direction, the steps that we're taking, and how our good shepherd wants to lead us into abundant life, if only we are willing to let our guards down a little bit in order to hear his voice. So let me pray for us, and we'll jump in. Holy Spirit, we praise you today, God, and we open ourselves up to you, trusting that you are at work in our midst, that you're present, and that you are unearthing the things in us that you want to lay your hands on. We pray that you would do it. Amen. So we're looking at John chapter 10 today. Jesus is speaking to this crowd, and he is going to use an image of a shepherd and sheep. Which for as the people that are standing around that day, that makes a ton of sense to them. But for a lot of us, we got any animal, poultry people here? Yes. my sheep people. Y'all know about sheep, right? Well, the rest of us don't. So here's how sheep this is a few things that are helpful for us. Sheep herding was a primary trade in Judea, and that was because the ground there is very rocky. It's hard to grow things. And so people would keep sheep and they would sell the wool. They wouldn't kill the sheep. They would kind of keep them alive as long as they could. And what that meant was that this relationship between the shepherd and the sheep was long-lasting and really impactful. It grew over the course of years so that the sheep would come to know the shepherd's voice, to be called by name. The shepherd would give the sheep names. The shepherd didn't just kind of clock out when his shift was over. He'd spend days and days and nights with the sheep in the field, watching them, leading them, protecting these sheep who really could do so little for themselves, who are very vulnerable to threats like predators or bandits, as we're going to see in this passage. And so there's this deep, deep connection, this deep level of trust between these sheep and their shepherd who stays with them no matter what. And this is what Jesus is kind of playing on as we pick it up in verse 1. He says, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit." So right out of the gate, we're talking about the threat. Like he's hitting on the threat that the sheep face on a day-to-day basis, right? He goes on, he says, "The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice." So we see this deep, deep level of relationship here between sheep and a shepherd. He's got them. The shepherd's got them. He is providing. He's leading them, and they know him, right? And Jesus is saying, this is what's on offer for you all. But the people that are standing there, they don't really get it. They're kind of having a hard time picking up on the imagery. He takes a different angle on it. This is what he says in verse 7. It says, "Again, Jesus said to them, 'Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and they will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and to kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." So Jesus does something here called mix his metaphors, or so it appears on the surface, right? He says on the one hand, "I'm the gate," and then he says, "I'm the good shepherd," which seems really weird to us. Like, why is that the case? But again, for the people that are standing there today, this makes perfect sense. And that is because scattered around all Judea, in the hills and the valleys and the fields, there were little sheepfolds that looked like this. I don't know how well you can see that. It's not the greatest picture. But these little like fortifications in the field that were ringed in, and then there was this narrow opening. And that was where the shepherd laid every night. Every night, the shepherd literally laid down his life for the sheep. And so the sense here is that like nothing can get to the sheep unless it goes through the shepherd. He would lead them into these sheepfolds overnight. And he became the gate. And then day by day, he would lead them back out into food, into water, into life, right? And so the shepherd says, "I've got you, my precious sheep. Food, water, everything you need, protection, I've got you." And over time, the sheep are like, "Okay, great. This is a pretty good life that we have here." And so this is Jesus' invitation to us, right? Like, I've got you. It's this invitation to a life that is sustained by, held by, led by, in every single way, the good shepherd. Hard days will come for sure, but I've got you. I will lead you into life. Follow me and be at peace. It sounds like a pretty great offer, right? Just like, boom, trust Jesus, follow him around, listen to his voice. We got it. The problem is, friends, is that this is a really, really hard invitation for us to accept, if we're honest. This is a really hard invitation for us to accept in our day and age, in this culture that we're a part of, even if we've been walking with Jesus for a long time. That's because we live in a culture that upholds very highly this value of rugged individualism. What that means is that we believe we should be completely independent, autonomous, self-reliant, self-contained. I've got it all together right here, me, right? And we are kind of sold and we buy into this dream that if I am ruggedly individual, if I'm autonomous, I have the freedom to pursue whatever it is my heart desires and thereby find satisfaction, find life, right? But there is a flip side to this rugged individualism. There are actually many flip sides. We're just going to talk about one of them. And that is that if I have to be independent, if it's just me figuring it all out, then I'm also responsible for my own safety, my own self-defense, right? And so we have to build up our own walls to keep us safe. That walls that hedge us against the threats that we face, real or perceived threats. Walls that shield us against our own vulnerability because we're aware. We try to forget, we try to push it away, but we are aware of our own vulnerability. And so we put things in place to help assure ourselves that we're going to be okay. Come what may, no matter what comes, we build these walls up so that when it smacks up against, whatever smacks up against them, bounces off and we are safe inside. We take up these things. It could be kind of just small moment-by-moment strategies. It could be big life decisions that we do this in. But what they do is they insulate us from pain and from fear, from failure, from lack and need and loneliness and loss and all of these things, right? They help us move through the world while mitigating our risk, while insulating us from pain and from fear. And so I want to offer us some questions. We're going to talk about these in just a second in twos and threes, but I'll just share these questions first. It should be up here on the screen. For us to think about, what do people do to feel safe? Both on a big picture scale and on just like a moment-by-moment scale. What do people do to feel safe? What strategies do we use to insulate ourselves from pain and from fear? What things do we use to ensure that no matter what happens, we'll be okay? It's just three of the same question. Just trying to hit it from a different angle, right? So in a second, what we're going to do is we're going to have a chance to talk about this. But so in order to kind of give you a little bit of chance to think, I'll share about some of mine. So for me, the main sort of wall, I mean, it's not the only one, but the main wall that I like to put up is the wall of avoidance. And this plays out in a bunch of different ways. Sometimes it plays out by like, this just happened the other day, had a really hard conversation, and I'm walking back to my car, and I'm going to drive home, and I'm feeling a little tense, anxious, hurt, and I throw in my AirPods, pop in the podcast, and I'm set. Like, it's gone. I don't have to think about that until I have to again, of course, right? But content. Sometimes I do it through busyness. Just throwing myself into a million different fun things and saying, we don't have to worry about anything else. We got all these let's focus on the really fun things. And if we start to have some moment of emptiness, like let's fill it with something fun, right? When I first came to NLCF, I didn't know anybody, and I really struggled to make friends. And I was coming from a small town where I never really had to develop any skills for like meeting people. I just knew folks. I was pretty introverted and still am. And so I would walk into our service here in this room, or I'd walk into various events that we would do, and I'd look around and I'm like, I don't know anybody here. I'm starting to freak out. Maybe you've experienced this a little bit. My heart's beating a little faster, right? And so to kind of like just make it okay, what I would do is I would just pull my phone out and I'd go find a wall and I'd just kind of back myself against the wall and beep, boop, all on my phone, right? whatever. It didn't matter what it was. Like, it wasn't anything that I actually needed to do, but I'm just texting away. I'm checking the score of whatever, like, just on my phone. And what that did was it insulated me from this reality that, like, I'm alone. There's no one, I don't know people. No one knows me here. But it also communicated to other people, like, oh, he's busy, like, he's got stuff going on. So people didn't come up to me either. Like, I was just trying to sort of distance myself. And then when the service started or whatever, I would put my phone away, be good. The social moment was over. But it's just these little things that help me, like, avoid hard things. So the questions come back now for you. Grab somebody next to you. Try to keep it to, like, no more than 3 people in a group so we all have space to share. We're going to take a couple minutes and answer these questions. Answer one of them, answer multiple of them, whatever. It can be, like, your own strategies. It can also be things that you see in other people. Sometimes it's easier to see in other people, right? They can be things that are obviously bad, like being really locked in on your phone. Or they can be things that you think, oh, this feels good, this feels right, it feels like it should be, but I'm still, we still see people use it. Move if you need to. Take a couple minutes, chat it up. And then we're going to make a list here together. Like 1 minute, 1 minute. All right, let's bring it back together. So we want to just try and learn from one another here, okay? As much as we can. Thank you, my man. That's super helpful. Hopefully you can see this. I just put noise for what I was sharing about, okay? What else we got? Just shout it out. Driving, interesting. Okay, I like it. What else? Isolating, yeah. Yeah, that sense of, like, I don't need anybody, and that mitigates that feeling of I really need somebody. What else? Shutting down, yeah. What else? Okay, apathy. Yeah, like it. What else? Walking away. Yeah. What about things that might actually, all these things seem, well, driving's good, like that. All their other things seem quite bad. Are there anything that come to your mind that you're like, I don't like, this seems like it's probably a thing that I might do or I might see other people doing, and it seems good, but probably is helping me put up a wall as well. Was that playing games? Somebody else said something. Playing. I'm just going to put playing. What's that? Sorry, I'm missing. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What about with people? These are all kind of by myself. What about do we use people in any way? Okay. So it's kind of a sense of if we just keep it on the surface, we don't have to get into the stuff. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, there's a way of kind of using people that is like, yeah, I like being with you, but really also you make me feel okay. You make me feel like I'm okay. And there's some of that that's good, and there's some of that that's sort of nasty because we're using a person, right? What else? Helping others. Oh, here we go. I like that. Tell me more. Like, how does that work? Yeah. Oh, that's good. Anything else coming to mind? What about our life plans? This is kind of a backwards one. Has anybody ever felt the need where you're like, I got life planned out. I know where things are going to go from here. I maybe started in high school thinking about what needs to be on my application. Got to get these grades, take these classes so that I can move the next thing. And then once I get here, I got to do this, that, and the other thing so that I move to the next thing, right? And I keep moving, and the plan keeps me safe. As long as we're on plan, we're all right. Does anybody feel that? Yes. Yeah, we like a plan, right? The plan. What else? Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind? What about like romantic relationships? I mean, I'll just say for myself, I have stayed in a relationship when I was in college for far too long simply because I was like, I'm going to be exposed. If this person's not here, who am I? Anybody feel that? I mean, you don't have to, okay, you don't have to raise your hands. Totally. Tell me more. Yeah. Yes, that's good. I'm going to call that invulnerability because that plays out not just in romantic relationships, but in others. And I know that from experience. I love to lie about hard things. I mean, it's funny, but that's how I avoid. I love to just kind of, how you doing? What's going on? You're like, oh, I'm good. Everything's great. Meanwhile, like Meg and I are really struggling. We're really, we just cannot get on the same page. We're constantly at tension, but I'm good, right? Invulnerability. Because I'm worried if you see my marriage fully, you might think, what the heck is that guy's deal, right? And you might leave me, and there's that wall gone. Anything else kind of come to mind? Party culture, yeah, living it up. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. Money's one. If I have money, then I'm insulated from what happens if blah, blah, dot, dot, dot. What happens if I need money? What if I get sick? Makes me feel like, okay, I'm good as long as I have money. All right, there are all kinds of things. That's kind of the point, is that we do this a lot. Here's what I want us to know, though. What ends up happening is that we end up with really thick walls, a really nice cocoon around ourselves, right? that helps us ensure, that helps us at least say to ourselves, you're going to be okay. Come what may, you're going to be okay. It insulates us, right? Here's the problem, though. It insulates us from the pain, but it also insulates us from the shepherd's voice. If I'm so locked into these things, then anything that's not within these things gets immediately bopped up against the wall, falls by the wayside, right? And this whole thing that Jesus is pointing us to is about hearing the shepherd's voice. Our walls get so thick, we get so dependent on these strategies that we cannot hear the good shepherd. There's so much noise, so much to do, so much that we feel like we have to step into. We're so wrapped up in our safe bubble that we are closed off from anything that's not there. And so we end up looking like a sheep in the middle of a field with this super beefy cage. Safe, right? But dying, languishing, famished. You cannot live for very long like that, in search of life. You see, what's ironic is that my sort of strategy with my phone all those years ago, it was actually the very thing that kept me from finding the thing that I actually wanted, which wasn't to be safe. I wanted friends. I wanted to be known. I wanted to be loved, and I wanted to extend that to other people too, right? I was safe, but I was missing it. I was missing out on the good life that the good shepherd wanted to lead me into. And this is the promise, abundant life, that I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. Follow me and I will give you life. Drop these destructive defenses and trust that I've got you. This is not necessarily a guarantee of safety. This is the thing that we need to know. Certainly not safety as we define it. It doesn't guarantee that you won't get hurt. In fact, Jesus says just a few chapters after this, in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. You see, the life that Jesus invites us into is not safe as we've thought about safety. It's not a life, we won't become invulnerable. In fact, it will feel terrifying at times. When someone finally looked at me and said, hey man, I noticed you're on your phone a lot. I was like, oh, exposed immediately. What if you weren't? And then the next time I walk into an LCF thing, I'm like, okay, phone's not an option anymore. And it was scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't safe as I had thought about safety. And yet, in that fear, in that pain, Jesus met me. He is with us. And he leads us into life, not just getting us through pain, not just getting us through difficulty, through fear, but actively using that stuff to lead us deeper into life. And so we end up with some bumps and bruises and scrapes and scars. That's really the nature of being a vulnerable human being in this world. We don't get a choice on that one. But if we drop our defenses and listen to the voice of the Good Shepherd, who might redirect us out of some of these things, who might, in the midst of our noise, say, what if you didn't have noise, man? What would be exposed to me? In the midst of throwing ourselves into one thing after another, hurrying around from place, what if there was space to just be? Ooh, tough. It's scary. We listen, and those bumps and those bruises and those scars, they don't just become reminders of past hurts. They end up becoming monuments to the Good Shepherd's work in us, to redemption. And so I tell you the story about my phone, not because I'm like, oh God, thank God you brought me out. He did. But also because it's helpful. I'm able to be like, wow, the Lord did that. And I think that since then there's been like a thing in me that the Good Shepherd's like, hey, you know what it feels like to be in this room, this one, by yourself. Like, pay attention who's around you. And I get to meet friends. I get to say hi. I get to hear about what's going on in people's lives that I would never have had before. I would have been stuck in myself. That's redemption. That's life that the Good Shepherd is leading me into. And so as we wrap up, we want to ask a couple of questions, a couple main questions. What wall or walls does the Good Shepherd want to knock down in you? You might be looking up here and you're like, yep, do that, yep, do that, yeah. I mean, that's, it's the way, but asking the Spirit, what is the thing? Jesus says in Revelation, I stand at the door and I knock, and he who opens it I'll come in and make my home with him. Where's the knock for you this morning? What might it look like? What does that actually look like to drop the defenses, to see the defenses for what they are, a cage, and to drop them, to allow the Good Shepherd to break them so that he might lead us into life? What do we need to let go of? We want to ask the Spirit that this morning. And then secondly, can you hear the Good Shepherd's voice calling you by name? I love that we were singing the song earlier. I don't know the name of it, but when you call my name, I ran out of that grave. And I'm like, but so many times, man, I have not even heard it. And it's taken not so many years to say, hey, you don't have to be here. Can you hear the Good Shepherd's voice? And how might you make space to listen? How might you make space to listen? If you're somebody who's up here and you're like, man, I'm doing these things that are like throwing myself into stuff to avoid, silence is your friend, my friends. To practice some silence, because what happens when you sit silently before the Lord is that immediately all the things that you are anxious about, that you're hurt by, just rush to the surface. It's really inevitable. It's kind of the way it goes, because all the noise is shut off and it's just you. You're just exposed with the Lord. And so to spend some time and just whatever comes, here it is, Lord. Here it is. I'm feeling anxious about this. I'm feeling heartbroken about this. Would you meet me in that? Maybe it's by leaning into community a little bit harder. For those of you who are here and you're like, man, I'm like 3 weeks into the semester and I don't know who my people are, it is not too late. Literally, like my experience I'm talking about with my phone, that was over a year before I really felt like, okay, there's some people here. I'm okay. It's not too late. Even for those of us who feel like we have found our home, it is not too late. We lean in, perhaps not just to the sort of bubble of folks that we have kind of put around ourselves that feel really safe, that feel like they really satisfy us, but we look beyond that. And we lean in, sharing our lives, letting people see us and push us. We wrestle with the scriptures together. We pray together. This is not easy, and it's not just happening here in this space. There are other groups on campus that are doing this really well, so if you want to jump in there, amazing, do that. This is not easy. It requires effort, but we hear the voice of the shepherd as we walk in the flock and not just kind of off by ourselves, locked into our cage in the middle of the field. This is our invitation this morning, friends, to consider these two questions and to think, what does that actually mean? How do I actually step into this good news of the Good Shepherd who calls you by name and says, I want to lead you into abundant life? Stuff that you probably haven't even thought about before. You haven't had the imagination for. That's okay. I want to lead you. Can we be people that drop our defenses and listen to the shepherd's voice? So as we begin kind of responding to this is what we're going to do. We're just going to have some time to think about these questions, but to share about them. Hopefully this has kind of come up. There's been some things that have been stirring in you. And so you don't have to feel like you got to answer all these questions. Answer one. Turn to that person that you were with and just share for the next couple of minutes and pray for one another as we have time. And then I'll be back up here and wrap us up in a minute.